Hi there, my name is Jason Dunn. I'm with DUNN Lighting Sales, and I'm going to spend some time with you today. We're going to do about an hour-long meeting on the Legrand Adorne switch controls product line. We're going to go into a lot of detail here. We do a lot of videos that are, 5 minutes in a specific product. This is really going to be more of like a full overview on like how to specify and how to sell this brand. With that, I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna show you a lot of like the catalog. We're gonna get onto the website, but really the catalog with the Legrand line is what you really need to specify the brand. I'm gonna kind of teach you how I use the book when I'm with a customer, and the tools that really the tools that are going to help you be successful with the brand. With that, it's one really thing to point out when we jump into Adorne. So it's Legrand up here. That is your parent company. And then Adorne is our brand collection right here. That is this brand that you see here on the left-hand side. And it was about 5-6 years ago where Adorne, they decided to really kind of recreate the light switch. And it's something that had really in the US had really never been done. Now, for those of you that have traveled abroad and you go around the world, a lot of different countries have implemented new switching and control looks and styles and technologies. But really here in the US, I love this. This is actually one of our latest Instagram posts, but it really is the core of what we're talking about here, right? It's this versus that. Really in the US, for the most part, I mean, here's your basic toggle, screw plate, and then here's your Decora style over here versus what now we're jumping up to in the Legrand Adorne line. And actually, this is our paddle that's in here, and it looks phenomenal. We're going to get into that. But this is really the core of our brand, right? This is really where I want you, as we get into the more technical side of what we have to offer, I want you to bring it all back to this screen right here. And at the end of the day, it's a light switch that's turning something on and off, or it's a dimmer that's dimming something, right? So something we've done for many, many years, but we are changing the face of what that product looks like inside of a home. And I think it's vitally important. Like, again, sometimes I think we get too caught up in, oh, switching is difficult and it's hard. How about we just sell it for being good looking, right? So you might see me come back to this a couple of times today, but this you guys is kind of really where it's at. It's this versus that. What do you want? Let's not stop at just the light fixtures or appliances or whatever we got else going on in the room that we're specifying. Let's take this thing to the next step and let's do our switches and controls, right? And so that I just keep this in mind. And again, we'll probably come back to this at some point. So now if I jump over here, I'm going to go right to the catalog here. And not that I like to just do a full catalog training because I don't want to bore you, but this is really important. And I think it's really one of the only ways to really learn how this line goes. And I have some samples here that I'll be showing you along the way. So, and we're gonna come back. This is the push. This is the front of our brand new catalog 2020. You can go onto the Adorne website and you can, which we will go to, and you can download this catalog. Also, just reach out to us in our office and we can send some to you as well. So, okay, we're gonna dive in here. Okay, so now as we go through here, don't ignore, I mean, I know some of this is just our verbiage and how we say things, but it's time for a beautiful switch. I mean, take some of that in. I mean, that's really important. You're going to hear me say this a lot through this hour-long training is, hey, what are you doing about your switches and outlets? Because we have not been trained to ask that question. And again, if you don't ask that question, your customer's getting that, or they're getting that Decora that was up there, right? So we got to ask the question, what are you doing about your switches and outlets? And I'm not saying that everybody is going to convert over to this style, but I think a lot of people will, and I think you're gonna find that it's very popular with your customers. I'm gonna scroll through here, and we got some great images, and use these with your customers because it creates ideas, right? And it just kind of gives a good feel for what this is gonna look like inside of your home, right? And then we come down here, so we're gonna start with kind of our main switch style. So for those of you that have a display or getting a display or just have all the switches there, we're going to kind of go through our switch styles, right? So if you're taking notes, I'm going to have you just write a few things down. And the first one is paddle. And that is this page right here. And we'll get to the catalog page here in a minute, but let's just talk about what the paddle is, right? So paddle, and it's actually in the Instagram, this is versus that thing that we just looked at. The paddle is let's call it our entry level price point switch, right? So with a paddle, switch, and a plate, you're at retail, you know, $10 to $12 out the door, retail, right? So yes, are we more expensive than a toggle switch or a decor switch? A little, right? I mean, I'll give you that. But if you're doing screwless plate, better switches, if you're doing anything like that inside your house, this is going to kind of be right there price point wise with all of those quote unquote better products that are in the market, right? So Adorne does not have to be really expensive, right? And you're going to see me kind of go back and forth on that because yes, we do have switches that are very high end and they're glass touch switches and have a lot of technology in them, right? But we also have the very basic, which is the paddle right here. Now the paddle, and I've got one right here in my hand, so a little bit difficult to see, but this is a version of the paddle, and I'll kind of try to give you a profile there. It is just basically a rocker switch. Gives you a nice loud click there, which is actually, we're going to talk about that a little bit too. It's actually kind of important. You know, a lot of people are, you know, they like to hear things or they like to feel, you know, something go on and off, right? They like that feedback from the product, right? We have some that give feedback and we have some that don't give feedback. So it's really like a to each his own. You know, if you have the display and you have all these switches there, invite people to just start playing with the display. What do you like? I have a lot of people that love the paddle versus the touch switch that we're going to get into just because it looks good and it looks different, right? And you'll see as we go through the catalog, when you start ganging these together, so this is a single gang, which means one switch. When you do 2, 3, 4 switches, the wider we get on the wall, the better we look, regardless of whatever switch technology of ours you're doing. It looks phenomenal. Actually, right here, I don't know if you can see it really well, but these are 2 touch switches that I have on my wall right there, and it just looks so sharp, just the way it is right there, versus that other style, that decor style. So really just an upgrade in the way it looks. So paddle right here is our entry level, and we'll get into some of the nuts and bolts like this. This is our one module paddle switch, right? There's some fun things we can do. Now that's kind of a 102, 103 training. So I'm going to try not to go too deep into these. I want to just give you, you know, the 1,000-foot view of like, how do I sell and specify? How do I get my customer interested in this product? How do I sell it? And so that's your paddle switch right there. So, and I'll stress this, you'll hear me say it, as cool as some of this other technology gets, don't forget about this product, because we don't have to be this super high, I don't want to say super high end, we don't have to be super expensive. And I think a lot of people think that, oh, you're just, you know, Wi-Fi enabled systems and home automation and all this. No, you can achieve this look for a very, very, very reasonable price through the paddle. I have a lot of builders that are actually starting to adopt this because, you know, builders have changed everything in their house from, countertops. Like now everybody has granite, right? Like everything's getting better. The lighting packages that a lot of these builders are using, they're starting to use better product. At least that's what I'm finding up here in the Northwest. And so what's left? What's next, right? Well, the switch is something on the wall that nobody's really addressed. And so the beauty with Legrand is that we are addressing that, right? And then, you know, I'm going to bounce back here one quick second. Something that's really important to point out is that here's the back of our switch. You saw the front of it. It's, you know, it's larger, different platform, you know, it's the square, right? But if you look at the back of that switch, it is no bigger than any switch that's in the marketplace, right? Here is one of our dimmers right here, which we'll get into a soft tap. You look at the back of it, it's exactly the same, right? So this product is 100% retrofittable into any house that's out there, right? It'll fit in the box. So even though we have this look on the front, you know, the guts of the product, the backside of the product fits just like any other product does, right? As a matter of fact, I mean, I retrofitted my house when we bought it, and they just pop right in the wall, you know, piece of cake. So that's really important. I do get that question actually quite a bit. So, okay, so that's the paddle. All right, second thing we're going to write down is the whisper switch. And I'm going to make sure I shared everything with you. The whisper switch. There you go. Okay. So the whisper switch. Okay. So the whisper switch is really pretty cool here. This is our version of a toggle switch, right? And I've got one of these in my hand. I'll show you here in a second. I feel like the whisper has a very, very modern look to it. You know, it's got a really quiet throw. I'm going to show you the whisper switch right here. This is actually the dimmer version of this, right? And when you go to switch it off, I'll try to be really quiet here. So it's kind of hard to convey like over this format, right? But it's very soft and very quiet. And Legrand and Adorne, when they developed this line, went through several different versions of this and had consumers come in and do like blind studies to like, which one did people like? Which one did they like the feel of the best, right? And this is the one that won out. So a great switch. Again, it's just a switch, right? With a different face to it, a different cover to it, right? So really that is the Whisper. All right. So we're into our second switch here. So now if we scroll down, we get, and I'm going to call this probably our go-to, probably our most popular switch. And, again, it has to do with the look and how it is and the price point, everything included, plus some of the dimming features, which we'll get into when we get to the product pages. But this is our soft tap. So our soft tap dimmer, it switches right here. So it's just the square. And then the dimmer is right here, and then it's got these LEDs that are on the side. And I'm going to show you some of those when we get into the dimming portion. And here's kind of a close-up of what that dimmer looks like. So really, really sharp. Now this one, when you turn it on and off, be really quiet. Maybe or maybe not, you hear a little click there. I always compare this to the bottom of like an old iPhone. I mean, now they don't have buttons to them, right? But they used to have that little circle on the bottom of an iPhone, and you push it, a little click. That is how this feels when you touch it, right? Now, this is a go-to for a lot of our customers. The next step is touch, and we're going to get into touch. I think touch is cool, and it's awesome, and it's really, really neat. I do have some people that prefer this switch, though, because you can, again, feel it turn on and off. You can also hear it when you click it ever so slightly. You can hear it a little bit, right? So I have a lot of people that like this more than they like touch, because touch is silent for the most part. So just some different, one is not really necessarily better than the other. They're just very different in the way that they are. There's also a price difference in them. So obviously Paddle was our entry. Then you jump to Whisper. Now we're in the soft tap, which is the one we should write down now, the soft tap. And your soft tap is going to be in your mid $20 retail price point, for a switch, right? That's where you're going to be. And then, as we were just talking, we're going to jump over to the next. See again here too, just like these pictures, don't forget these, right? Show these to your customers. Like, look how good that looks. I mean, it's hard to say that a Decora 2 gang, and especially a Toggle 2 gang, looks better than that does on the wall. So again, we're selling a style, just like when we're selling a cool light fixture, a cool whatever, like this is a style that we're selling to people, right? And then down here, you get into our kind of our latest and greatest, our most techie version of what we have to offer. This is the Touch, right? So the Touch is actually a piece of glass on the front of it. Works just kind of like, honestly, like touching a smartphone. You just go up to it, and you will just tap on the back to here. Here's the touch switch in the magnesium color, right? It's kind of, see, I'm giving it the shine there so you can kind of see that it's glass. But yeah, you just come up to it and you're just going to tap it. It's going to turn on and off. Like, it's that simple, right? It's very cool. Now, something I did not touch on yet, and sorry to bounce around on you a little bit, but we come, and you're going to hear me say this, right? We come in magnesium, which is kind of a gray, right? A white, which is white. And then a graphite, which I like to call a little bit more like matte black. We call it graphite, but it gives you that matte black. That's just brand new, was released kind of midway through 2019. So that is a new addition to the product line. So we have 3 main finishes, which I think is awesome, because there are some brands out there that give you almost too many options of switches to choose from. This puts you down 3 distinct funnels. Do you want white? Do you want magnesium gray? Or do you want matte black graphite? What do you want? So it's pretty easy that way. So those are your 4 majors. So I'll go over them again. So you have your Paddle, you have your Whisper, you have your soft tap, and you have your Touch. So those are your 4 major switches. Now, we do have a couple other switches in our line that I will touch on as we go through, like our Wave product, which actually just was on Forbes, which is pretty cool. And we have a push switch. We have some other product that's really cool, but those are going to be your 4 main platforms, if you want to call it that, within the Adorne product line. Okay, so here we go. We're going to jump right into your catalog pages here. Now, I'm showing you a full view here. So this is, page 16. Here's page 17. So each page is dedicated to a style. All right, for the most part. Now, one thing that's going to be really important. Now, you can mix and match throughout your entire house if you want. Like, you can put in one switch box, you could put a paddle and you could put a touch. You know, they're going to work, right? However, what I tend to find is that people like a certain style and they want to try to keep that consistency through their house, right? And so as far as like making this brand simple for you to specify for your customer, what I would say is definitely try to get them into a funnel. Like, especially if you have a display, determine, hey, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, do you want a paddle, a whisper, a soft tap, or touch? Now that might be based on just what they like. Like, I just like the paddle. I like to hear it. It's simple. It's low tech. You know, that might be just whatever they want, no matter what house it's going into, right? Or it might be the latest and greatest, right? But in the touch, right? But let's get them down a funnel, and you're going to see why. Because like, so if you determine that your customer is in the paddle category, this is your entire ordering page right here. Now, paddle has a few more SKUs on it than the others because it's a little bit more basic, right? But let me make this simple for you, okay? This guy right up, your single pole three-way. By the way, we are single pole and three-way out of the box. For those that don't know what a three-way is, a three-way, very simple. You have two switches in two different locations that control one light fixture, okay? So it's a switch on this wall, maybe at the back door, switch on that wall, maybe at the entry, right? But they both control the fixture you're controlling, right? That's a three-way application. With our brand, everything is a single pole and a three-way out of the box. So pretty simple that way. So it's pretty easy. So, but when you get into this, right, this 15 amp, this guy right here, here's your ordering nomenclature, white, magnesium, and graphite right there, right? This is what you're going to buy 99.9% of the time. It's going to be, I mean, look, we can get into the details on 20 amp and four ways, and we'll help you do all this, right? But just know that for the most part, this is going to be the switch that you want, right? When you're specifying or pricing this out for somebody. Pretty simple there, right? Here is your dimmer, okay? So this is where we're gonna get into dimming here a little bit, right? Because I've got to walk you down this path and show you some of the cool things that we do. The paddle dimmer is going to be our more basic offering, right? So right here, so your go-to is going to be this incandescent halogen dimmer, also called a triac dimmer. You know, this is basic dimmer, just like we've been using for years, right? It's 25 to 700 watt dimmer. We do have an 1100 watt version right here. You guys, I got to tell you, in 5 years working with Legrand, I can count on one hand how many times I've needed a dimmer that's that big, because we tend to be dimming LEDs these days, and we just don't have, we don't need that wattage, right? But if you do, it's there, right? But I'm telling you, so it's either going to be your CFL LED dimmer here or your incandescent and halogen dimmer here, right? Pretty basic. This guy we'll get into a little later, the 0 to 10 volt. Don't worry about it. We're going to get into it. To really shorten this down for you, here's your switch. Oh, sorry. Here's your switch right up top. Here's your two dimmers that you're going to specify from right here, okay? Now, I want to talk a little bit about the CFL LED dimmer, right? So to be clear, a CFL LED dimmer is not an electronic low voltage dimmer, right? So that is very important, right? I get, the most common call I get is that, hey, my lights are flickering. I get it all the time, especially with everything being LED. Like WAC tape light, tech systems, like anybody using like electronics and transformers, any of those types of products, you know, honestly, even sometimes when somebody goes and buys like a cheap recessed can at a box store, people go, oh, it kind of has a low range dimming, or it flickers a little bit. And even though some products say they take a incandescent triac dimmer, right? A lot of those electronic products are going to work better with an electronic low voltage dimmer, or ELV dimmer. So look at your spec sheets. Like WAC tape is a great example. If you go to their spec sheet, it's going to say requires an ELV dimmer, that electronic low voltage, right? Now you could put that CFL dimmer on it. It's not going to hurt the product. Like, it's going to work. It's just not going to work that well, and you're going to get choppy flickering, and you're going to get a lot of stuff going on. And I get this a call a lot, and people go, hey, you know, my lights are flickering. And I'm like, well, did you use an ELV dimmer? And they're like, yeah, I did. And the next question I always ask is, how much did they spend on the dimmer? And if they say anywhere from like $20, $30, then you're like, no. You might have a CFL LED dimmer. But if you have a true electronic low voltage dimmer, it's going to be $50 to $100, right? They just cost more. The other telltale sign is a true ELV dimmer uses a neutral wire, which is the white wire, always usually stuffed in the back of the box. And so for it to have a true electronic low voltage dimming capacity, it's got to be using that that neutral wire. So just, you know, a couple little tidbits on that. But again, we're on our basic paddle here, right? So so you have your single pole 3-way CFL LED dimmer, or you have your incandescent halogen right there. So that's basic paddle nomenclature or ordering right there. Okay. So now we're going to jump over to the Whisper on the next page here. This push button is kind of a standalone one-off push. You know, it is what it is. Like, it's got a little bit more movement into it. It's just click to push it on, turn it on, and click to push it off. So so it kind of stands alone. But so we're into the Whisper here. So we went from paddle to Whisper. And again, so this is where it starts to even get easier. So here's your 15 amp basic switch, your 3 colors, easy, out the door it goes, right? And then we get into dimming here, right? And so now we're going to start telling a different story, because this one is perhaps one of the best stories that we can tell about, you know, some of the functionality of our product line. Whenever you get into this grayed out area right here, you're going to see this in the Whisper, in the Soft Tap, and the Touch. This is what we call our true universal dimmer. So what does that mean? It kind of means what it says, right? It will dim really any load that you put it on. ELV, MLV, you know, I mean, it could even dim fluorescent if it's dimmable. I mean, it's going to find the load out there. It's going to set itself and it's going to dim itself to whatever you're going to, right? So as long as the product is dimmable, it'll adjust itself and dim that product. So, but the beauty is this, you know, I'm gonna nerd out on you for a minute, and I'm not gonna go too deep into this, but there's 2 types of dimming, right? There is what they call forward phase and there's reverse phase, okay? Simply, forward phase is incandescent dimming. Reverse phase is electronic low voltage dimming, okay? And so if you're doing if you need an electronic low voltage dimmer, it's going to require that neutral wire, right? And it'll be a reverse phase dimmer. Well, with our true universal dimmer, you're able to go into that dimmer and have it be forward or reverse. So one product in the field can take care of all of those things for you, which is, I mean, it's like Mr. Fix-It. Electricians absolutely love it because you don't actually have to go out and buy a new product. Now, the other kicker too is our particular product is not expensive. I'm going to show you one that I have here. Let me turn this off real quick, and I will try not to blind you in the process. But this is so we have our outlet here. Now these are brushed stainless plates. These are pretty awesome how we have this lined up here. But this is our Soft Tap, just like we were talking about Whisper. Right now we're into Soft Tap True Universal Dimmer. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the power on this particular device, almost like, or actually like if an electrician was hooking it up the first time. I'm going to show you what it does here. So it should take about 10 seconds. It starts flashing. So it's going to go on. It's going to test that high trim. So it's testing the high trim. You can see it there. I'm trying not to blind you. Now here's where the trick comes. So it's reading the load right now. And I actually purposely have kind of a crummy lamp in here because you'll see how it adjusts. So right now you start to see it dance up a little bit like there. So it's trying to find, okay, where do I have like consistent power? Where am I not flickering with this particular product? And again, it's a crummy bulb. So it needs to go up quite a bit, right? So now when I turn that on, it's going to go right to its low level. And then I have full range of dimming from there. Now, if I know that bulb can go lower, there is adjustments in the instructions that walks you through there where I can go and I can tweak this and actually have that go a little lower too. So that is something that we have. But that is what's great about the true universal dimmers that we have. Now, this dimmer that I just showed you, that cool square look and all the LEDs, all that cool stuff, that dimmer retails between 50 and 60 bucks out the door, right? Whereas a lot of our ELV, electronic low voltage counterparts out there in the field are 25% more in cost than that. And they don't do half of the stuff that this product can do, let alone the fact, let's go back to where we started, it just looks good. It looks awesome, right? So, so don't forget, I say don't forget, I mean, focus on these. That true universal dimmer is a reason in and of itself to specify this brand. Really cool stuff. So that's your Whisper switch. We're gonna cruise down here to Soft Tap. Again, pretty easy. We just have your single pole 3-way switch. Here's your colors. Here's your true universal dimmer right here. Look, if you want an incandescent halogen, we have them. Like these are all available right there if you want them. I'm just telling you, 90% of the time, I just go. That's why we have it highlighted in the book. Now, one thing to note out here, let's say you're doing a house that's maybe, older than, let's say, 1980, typically. Like really old houses can sometimes not have that third wire, which is that neutral wire. To run a true universal dimmer, you need to have a neutral wire. So just keep that in mind. I don't run into it that often with the Adorne line, but you need to be aware of it. If it's an older house, you do have to have that neutral wire. Okay. And then, right, since we're here, I'm going to sneak this one in here. This is our 0 to 10 volt dimmer, right? This is really, the spec sheet will call out if it needs it. Tends to be on very high-end products, more commercial in nature. Some residential, you'll find it. But if you're dealing with, I know Schombeck Swarovski has a couple 0 to 10 volt fixtures. I've run into the brand Floss that does a lot of commercial, light commercial type work. A lot of companies do some 0 to 10 volt dimming, right? So it's some really high end residences too. So if you do have that need for a 0 to 10 volt dimmer, we do have that in this option, right? So that is your soft tap. And then touch, we even get even basic and more easy, right? So it's getting easier as we go because it's the same story, right? So you have your single pole 3-way switch, piece of cake, and then we have your true universal dimmer right here, right? And then your 0 to 10 volt option, right? So that kind of walks you through the paddle, the whisper, the soft tap, and the touch. But right now, you guys, we're talking about basic switching, basic dimming for the most part, right? So we're talking about, so we're not talking about Wi-Fi enabled. We're not talking about smart home yet. We are going to get to smart home because we break the two apart in our catalog. But I need you to know like the basics and the core of who we are before we jump to that point. That's really, really important, right? So we're going to walk through plugs. We're going to walk through some plates. We're going to do that kind of quickly. And then I'm going to jump into the Wi-Fi enabled product so you can kind of see how that relates to what we just talked about. One thing to note though, with all of these that we just went over, right? We talked about single pole and we talked about 3-way, right? And this is going to connect you into the start of the Wi-Fi conversation, right? If your customer wants to, if they have a 3-way, right, which is switch over here, and we're dimming this light, right? And they're like, hey, I want to dim it from both locations, right? So if they want to dim it from both locations, then you have to go to the Wi-Fi enabled devices, right? Because those devices need to be able to talk together, right? They need to be able to talk to each other. If you don't need that, like in my house right here, I don't have that set up. So if it's just a regular 3-way, you're going to have a dimmer on one side where the load is, and then you're going to have just a switch on the other side. So it's a dimmer, it's a switch, and it's a fixture, right? You can do that with all of the switches we just talked about, or in the dimmers, I should say, right? But if you're going to be doing multi-location dimming or go above a 3-way, like 4, 5, 6-way, like a lot of switches controlling one light, if you get to those situations, you have to jump to Wi-Fi enabled, right? Just for those devices. So, and we'll get into that, right? We're gonna definitely go over that. So, all right, we're gonna cruise along here. We're gonna jump in. Some of these pages I'm gonna cruise over. I don't mean to not draw attention to them, but again, the intent of this training is to, I want you to be able to leave here and be like, I'm gonna make selling switching a part of the package that I offer, because it's an opportunity to up our design, up our game, and hey, up the ticket value of, is this something new that we can sell into these houses? So I'm not going to get too into the details on some of these. These are our motion sensors. They're awesome. Some people, closets, that kind of thing. A lot of different people use them for a lot of different things. We have a cool, just a really killer timer switch right here with all your timers here and then the push button on off. I put one of those in every single bathroom that I specify. And people absolutely love that switch, right? Over here, the wave switch. Actually, this just got hit up on Forbes. We're in this new we're in this new era, I think, of where I don't want to call it germaphobe, but like I think we're all going to become a little bit more germaphobe with what's going on. Social distancing and like how that works, and washing our hands, and like not that we didn't do this stuff before, but I think we're all going to be a little bit more conscious about it. And so Forbes actually just put out a thing on some of the top products, and this is our this is our wave switch, right? So this shoots an infrared beam out, right? And you break it with your hand or with whatever, right? And that just, it actuates that to turn on and off, right? Really, really cool product, right? I've seen them put in like kids' rooms, so they just have to wave in front of it, disposals, things like that. Maybe a laundry room pass through where you can, you got something in your hand, you can kind of wave something past it, so just some really cool like features that you get out of the wave switch. It's fun. You're not going to put these all over your house. You're not going to gang these together, right? You're not going to use a ton of them, but it's a fun switch to use kind of here and there. So, and we're getting some really good pub on it right now. So, and also a part of that, germ conversation is going to be Wi-Fi too, right? Because that is that voice automation. So we are going to get into that. Trust me. Okay, so we're going to move to outlets. Okay, so outlets, you have 2 pages here that kind of go over everything that we have to offer, right? Our outlets, you guys, are awesome. They just look good and they're inexpensive. I'm going to go back to this and show you this again. I mean, it just, look how sharp that looks. I mean, granted, this has a stainless plate to it, but it just has that clean, square look. It's just not taking over the wall, and it just has a really, really new design to it that we're not used to seeing, which is so much nicer. So that is just our basic square, our basic outlet. I mean, it's like $4 or $5 retail out the door, right? So you guys, we're not expensive when it comes here. As a matter of fact, a lot of people are more expensive in the outlet section than we are. So outlets are very simple. And then don't forget about these plus size. Sometimes when you're doing bathrooms, and trust me, coming from a bald guy here, I don't know about this as much, but those of you that use hair dryers and that, I have heard in bathrooms and seen in bathrooms that people like this plus size because it's a little bit more space for those transformers to plug into for some of those devices that we use. So just some food for thought, things to think about. And then our GFCI, things like this, things that Legrand, you guys invented the GFCI breaker, right? And I mean, things like that are important. This is not a new switch company trying to reinvent things. This is one of the stalwarts. This is one of the largest switch brands in the world that's trying to reinventing the light switch in the U.S. So we can do that in just the regular square. We can do that in the plus size, and then you jump over here and you get into some pretty unique items. We're not going to get into modularity, but definitely pay attention to these right here. Right, this is a dual outlet, boom, boom, with your USB charger right here. I put 2 of these, you guys, in every bedroom. I mean, it's really honestly that simple. Every nightstand should have one of these, and trust me, your customer is going to thank you for putting it in. It's one of those things you don't think about it before, but then after it's going to be really cool. So, and then this guy actually comes with the wall plate too. So it just cuts out an ordering step if you order this one right here. This guy does not. So so that's just a little a different one there. Okay, then we're going to move to the pop out. Okay, so a lot of people know us for this particular product. I'll just go right back up and give you a better image here on our cover here. The pop out, you guys, is awesome. It hides the outlet itself, tucks it away, so you just don't see the the image of the outlet there. It has a spring to it, springs in, springs out. Don't worry, we have a lifetime warranty. This thing is well made. They do not break. You're going to pick up charging here on the top, here on the side, and also from the bottom. So you actually pick up an extra charger there. Now, I'm not here to tell you they're inexpensive as far as price goes. I mean, they're not break the bank expensive, but I mean, you're $30 retail, for an outlet. Now you start doing those in every outlet around your entire house, and it's going to add up. And don't get me wrong, I've had a lot of people do that. I tend to use these in certain areas in every home that I spec. Definitely, I use them at the end of every kitchen island. I can't remember the last time I specified a house and I didn't use one on a kitchen island. So it's a pretty good spot to use that particular product. Or anywhere, like if you have a hallway or anywhere where people just don't want to see the outlets, it's a good way to just make it disappear. So don't forget about that. Really, really cool product there. Just know that right here, if you do a 2 gang and a pop out, it gets a little bit more complicated, right? Again, this is 103 training. I'm not going to go too far into that. Just, I'm giving you a heads up. This is not a countertop pop-up outlet. I get that call quite a bit. This is a pop-out. So this is for the wall. It is not rated to go into a countertop. However, this Decorum right here, we came out with this about a year and a half ago. This guy right here is a countertop option that we do offer. So you definitely have that. And then we're going to jump down to illumination here. I'm going to go through this part pretty quick. I just want you to know we have it. I want to put it on your radar, right? We have these right here, which are like night lights. They can take over a switch, and you can actually turn that into a light. And it's a removable light, like a flashlight too, which is pretty cool. Here is an accent light for your switch plates, right, that we do offer. But I want to spend a little bit of time on this right here. This is a really important part, in my opinion, with the Adorne product line. So, and a lot of the products that you've been seeing, you see these little dots right here as you come across? See those? Okay, so what's really important about it is when the switch is in the off position, you are going to see a light in the center, ever so soft, just barely, barely, barely glowing, right? And you might say to me like, oh, that's no big deal. And I don't know if you can really see it on here, if the camera is good enough, but if I turn around and look, I can see two little dots on that switch because both switches are off right now, right? What's really cool is like in my house, it's 3 levels, and that 3rd level is like an entry to a garage, kind of a basement, right? There's no windows. It's always dark in there. And so it's just when you walk through the house and it's dark, you know right where the switches are all the time. And look, that might not seem like anything to you personally, and actually my wife has said this, it's her favorite part of the switch, because when she gets up in the middle of the night, she doesn't have to kind of fumble around. It's just something about, directionally, she knows right where to go because she has this little tiny glow on a switch and she knows where to go. So don't underestimate the cool factor or just the nice, the nice factor of having that in your house, right? Now I bring this up because this is important. The paddle, the whisper, and the push switch, really the paddle and whisper that we talked about, the basic ones that we talked about in the front of the book, they do not come with that light installed. You have to buy this indicator light separate. However, all of our Wi-Fi products, the soft tap, the touch, so that all these guys all come with that. So your more electronic products are going to come with that as standard. And you guys, it's all done for cost, right? This paddle, we want to make this thing, we want to put this in every home that's out there, right? And we recognize that, we're upping the value or the dollar price of switches here a little bit. So we have actually, so that is a little light guide that you must buy on those if you want to put it in there. And I'll show this to you right here. It pops right out of the back of the switch, right? So it just wires in and it pops right in. So pretty simple how that works. So yeah, really, definitely a cool factor of the Adorne product line. Okay, now we're going to jump to connectivity and accessories. Again, not going to spend a lot of time here. This is your data, your phone, your Cat 5 cable, all this stuff, right? And so you have your Keystone frames over here. This is you're going to know if you need this, in whatever room that you go into. So this is just where you select all of those products. And so it'll match your Adorne system with all your data. Sometimes, to be honest with you, sometimes if it's a hidden behind a TV or something like that, the electrician will just kind of use whatever they have on the truck. But you want to use this definitely. Sometimes people will follow it all the way through. You definitely want to use this on the wall if you're doing all the switches and you have like a phone jack on there. You'll definitely want to use this so everything has that matching look to it. Okay, so onward we go. We're gonna cruise down here. Let's talk wall plates here for a second. Wall plates, we got a lot of really cool options, you guys. This is where our design and our style comes into play, right? So we have the 3 colors, right? Your white, your magnesium, and graphite. But we have a ton of wall plates that we have available to choose from. So if you ever need samples on this stuff, please hit me up. I'm happy to sample these out for you. And we break them down by section. So here's like your real materials. You have black stainless, brushed stainless, and I want to be careful how I say this because, hey, if somebody wants to do a mirror plate all over their entire, house, then great, go for it. It's going to be beautiful, right? It does, especially when we get into some of the real or the cast metals, it can get expensive. Like they can be $40, $50 retail. for a plate versus $4 or $5 for a plastic plate. Our plastic plates, you guys, are gorgeous. I mean, they're beautiful, right? These are, I mean, these are extraordinary. I mean, they're absolutely phenomenal looking. I tend to use these, and I'm specifying when I'm in like a cool kitchen with a backsplash or something like that we're trying to match or to accent. Like in my house, I have this cool tile backsplash, and we used a mirror, we have white tile, and then we used a mirror on top of that to just make it pop and make it cool, right? So be creative in where you use these throughout the house. So really some cool stuff in here. We just came out with this linen guy, rustic gray, slate linen, some cool stuff. And we also have this custom plate here. This comes with an insert to where you can paint it the color of your wall, or you can decorate it. Kind of like the sky's the limit when you get into it. It's really cool. We actually just did a cool. This is my Instagram, and this was an ad that we just did or a posting, and it was kind of a cool like kid theme inspired. These were custom plates that were made, and it kind of gives you an idea of like some of the cool things that you can do with the Legrand Adorne line with our custom plate. I do sell a lot of custom plates, so don't forget about that one. There's some fun things that you can do. Then we get to cast metals. Again, absolutely, like I was showing you that on my sample display here. Satin nickel, oil rub bronze, brushed satin brass. These are all made in France and Europe. I mean, these are absolutely gorgeous. Not inexpensive. Definitely worth it. But yeah, so don't forget about them. I mean, I'm not downplaying these either, you guys. I use a ton of them. I just, especially if somebody is on a budget, start with your plastic plates and then kind of work your way up, because it doesn't feel like, if you haven't done a lot of switch jobs before, you're going to have 60, 70, 80 single gang switches inside of a house. If you include all the outlets, well, 80 times 50 can add up. And so I don't also like, I want to sell as much as we can and give a cool factor to the customer, but I also want to try to stay within budget too, so they get the look, right? Here's our Hubbard and Forge line. We took their two most popular finishes, and these are actually made by Hubbard and by us, in a collaboration of Hubbard and Forge and us, but they actually do forge this on the front. So it is actually their product that's on there, their castings, I should say, in the bronze and the natural iron. And then I think you guys were seeing this here. I'll go down to plastics. We do the 1 to 6 gang, right? So up to 6 switches wide. We do on, I think the Hubbard and Forge, we only went up to a 4 gang. Yep. So we go up to 4 gang on that. And then really, I'm going to point this out too. You have a 1 gang here, and then you have the 1 gang plus, right? The 1 gang plus is what you're going to use on that outlet that's taller, right? So the 1 gang is the square which is most of our line. The 1 gang plus is going to be on that taller outlet, okay? But then here's all your plastics, right? And like I said, this gloss white is gorgeous. It really is. Some of the grays are new colors that just came out. The one that I was showing you behind me, I used this powder white with the magnesium. I think it's a sharp look. Lots of options, you guys. Sky's the limit. Let your brain go wild and have a good time. You can really put together some pretty cool, unique product through that. Okay, so we're going to cruise through here. I'm going to skip through this part right now and do a different video for you. This is our under cabinet system. It probably represents about 30% of our overall business, 30–40% of our overall business. We sell a ton of this product. So vitally, vitally important to what we do. But we're going to pass on this right now just because I want to keep this one focused on controls. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to cruise down here, and now we're going to get to our Wi-Fi app-based lighting system. Okay, so super duper important with the app-based control system, right? With what's going on in the world, you guys. So the idea of home automation 10 years ago was only for, the most expensive houses, and like it didn't exist. And I think that we are all aware of home automation and how it's growing, right? At all the trade shows I go to, it's the #1 question that's asked. If you just look at the amount of Amazon, Alexas, and Googles that were sold in the US alone last year, I am here to tell you that the chances are the people that are buying from you have these devices, and they're most likely looking for other ways to use them. With like the Alexa per se, that's what we use in our house, is the Alexa. And, it's love-hate. I realize that some people don't like them or they roll their eyes to it, but you guys, this is a real part of the business. It's billions and billions of dollars of business, and it's growing every year. So we have got to get in front of this thing and capture it, because it's now in our wheelhouse. Like, I think before it might've been out of our wheelhouse a little bit. It was more in the integrators wheelhouse. But what Adorne's done, and some other product lines actually have done, is they've made this something that's accessible for me, right? For a 3,000 square foot, track built home, right? I can have an app-based lighting system. Like I can do this in my house, right? And it's fairly simple. So I'm going to get into the nuts and bolts of how this works, right? So right here, you're going to see this hub. Okay. So this hub plugs into your router, and it kind of allows you to hook the phone app to your switches, right? So if you want to have Wi-Fi enabled switches, you have got to go back here to page 6465. This section back here. Here is all of our app-based switches, right? So we can do this in the Whisper, in the Soft Tap, and in the Touch. Notice there's no paddle in there, right? So honestly, you guys, like when I'm working with a customer and we sit down, one of the first questions I ask them, and not just because they're controls, by the way, just overall, one of the first questions that I ask them is what are your expectations for home automation? What are you using? Do you have an Alexa? Do you use Google? What do you use inside your home? And are you interested in connectability with that, right? And I think you're gonna find that more times than not these days, customers are gonna be like, oh yeah, I'd love that. I would love to have control of that. At least that's been my experience. And so if that's the question, if you ask that question at the beginning and they want that control, then right away in your mind, you have got, and if they want that look to stay consistent throughout everything they do, right away, I need you to start thinking about the Whisper, the Soft Tap, and the Touch, right? So keep it in there, because you can do a mix of Wi-Fi enabled product and non-Wi-Fi. So like, let's say in the kids' bedrooms, they're like, I don't care if I have app control on that. Well, then you can use the stuff at the beginning of the catalog, right? You could even use paddles and keep it very basic. And then in your main living areas, do some awesome touch switches, right? So you can mix and match. But if somebody wants that consistency of the same switch through their house, which I find that people do, then you need to stick with one of these styles, the Whisper, the Soft Tap, or the Touch. Okay, so basically what the system is it's your lighting control app. It's that hub we were just talking about, and it's your switch, right? And so what happens is that you plug this hub in, and when you tap the switch, you're able to give each switch a name, right? And then you have then on your app, right? You're able to go on and turn your lights on and off. You can program scenes and settings and do all kinds of really cool things from the app. And I'm giving you the cliff notes because we're going fast. So, but there's a lot of controllability that you have inside there, right? So, but that's on the app here. Now, I'm going to give you my 2 cents on this, is that I have this in my house and I've only used my phone to turn off the lights twice, maybe 3 times, right? I believe, this again is my opinion, I believe that really where the future is of all of these products is in that voice command, voice automation, the Alexa, the Google, using those things to control, right? I find that the apps, not just from our company, but on all, like a lot of controls, the app is really there to program, right? So you're going to program your system. It allows you to change the name on little Johnny's room or whatever, kitchen, nook, whatever you want to do, you can change those names. Because once you program a switch, it pushes into the cloud, right? And that allows your Alexa or Google to control those devices as well. So if I name my kitchen pendants, like right now, if I have it turned off for the sake of having not lights go on and off all over the place, but I can say, Alexa, turn on the pendants, the kitchen pendants, and boom, they go on. I can say, Alexa, dim kitchen pendants to 50%. They dim to 50%. And I'm here to tell you guys, like, I've got kind of a low-tech family. Within about 2 weeks of having my whole house done, like everybody was calling out, we don't touch the switches for the most part anymore, right? Which again, kind of gets back to that whole germ question, right? Is this the way of the future? So that people aren't touching things as much? I don't know. I mean, it's interesting, right? With how things are going to change in that regard. But nonetheless, it is a cool factor. You're sitting on your couch, you're going to watch a movie. I could say, Alexa, turn off the living room. Bam, it happens. And what's funny is, like, some people and even customers, they go, oh, we're lazy. We're lazy. And then I always remember a story I was talking when this first came out. I was talking to my mother, and she goes, "Yeah, we thought the same thing of TV remotes when they came out too. Like, why don't you just go to the TV?" So, you guys, this is going to become a way of our life, and it's going to become, I don't want to say expectation, but controlling is going to just become more commonplace for us as we go forward, right? So, it's just something to keep in mind as you're selling this product, right? And then you're able to do scenes with it. I keep my scenes to a limit in my house. I have a scene that says, "Alexa, turn on the lights," which sets up my whole main area with light when I come in. I have Alexa turn everything off. And that's kind of my night scene. So when I go to bed, all the lights behind me turn off. So you can do all that stuff and have the programmability in it, and it's all done through RF. Now, a couple important questions that might come up. These are not talking over Wi-Fi. Okay, these are the controls in your house are RF controlled. If you lose Wi-Fi, your switches still work, right? You just will lose that ability to turn it on and off with Alexa, because obviously Alexa needs to have the internet to access the cloud, right? And again, I'm happy to go deeper on this subject if you would like me to, but that's kind of the easy, that's kind of the simple view of how this thing works, right? Now, again, I told you at the beginning there was a couple reasons to do Wi-Fi, right? One of the reasons to do Wi-Fi was to just, geek out your house like I have in mind, right? We can talk to everything. We can have the whole house that way, right? And have all that connectability. And then the other reason where we got into multi-location dimming, or when we had, when we had, 4 ways, 5 ways, 6 ways, 5 switches controlling one light. When you get into that situation, or you want to dim it from multi-locations, you have to go to this page. Okay. So if you're doing, let's say we're just doing soft tap regular switches around our house, but I have two dimmers on one light fixture, I would just come here and I would buy one master and one remote. Now, it's not a remote control. Let's just be clear about that. Master, some people call them companion switches, but you'll need one of each. So you need a master and a remote for each switch load, right? If you're doing multi-location dimming. Okay, if that doesn't make sense, call me. I will walk you through it. It can get a little bit confusing on that part, but yeah. So and I'll just go through the switches here real quick. They're all pretty much the same. So in the Whisper, right, you have your master and you have your remote. So if it's just one switch controlling one light, you're going to need a master. If you have 3 switches controlling one light, you're going to need one master and 2 remotes for the other locations so that they can talk together. So pretty basic on that. And then we get down into here. You have your master true universal. Remember we talked about true universal? We're back to it. So we have our master true universal right here, right? And then here is your Wi-Fi ready remote dimmer, okay? So you would put your master on one end and you'd put the remote on the other in a 3-way application. So pretty easy that way. And then we do have this 2-wire guy. Remember, when you're talking about this 2-wire, this is when you run into that situation where you don't have a neutral wire. So that's where you would use that particular dimmer. Okay, so then we jump over to the soft tap. You guys, it's pretty much the same thing, right? So you have your master, your remote, you have your universal, and you have your Wi-Fi ready remote right here. So pretty basic all the way through, and then in your touch right here. And then on the next page, we get into some of our scene controllers and some of that jazz. And again, repeaters. Again, this is a 102, 103 training. We'll get there, right? And what I'll say is, let's start selling. Let's sell the product. Like, sell the idea of redoing somebody's switch and making it look good on the wall. Let's give them something different that nobody else is really showing, right? And really, there is no other switch company out there that has this kind of aesthetic that stands off the wall. It is absolutely stunning, right? And it's kind of like a recessed can, right? So some advice that I would give you if you haven't sold switching before is just start with the idea, right? Just start with one. Honestly, start with that first page that I showed you, right? Start with this page right here. If you want, and if you want, I can send this to you. But start with, this versus that. What do you want? Because if you sell the idea of one switch, you're going to get the entire house, right? They're going to want to do everything. It's like selling a really high-end recessed can, a recessed light to a customer. Is they're going to get that. If you sell the idea on one of them, well, they're going to do their entire house. And those can turn into really good orders for you, right? Not only is your customer going to get a killer product, but I think you're going to see a nice bump in your ticket size. I mean, some of these, you do a Wi-Fi 3,000 square foot Wi-Fi enabled home, it's going to be $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 if everything was like a touch Wi-Fi switch, right? You could also just do a paddle system inside the same house, and you're $1,000 or $1,500 out the door and you have that beautiful, awesome look, right? So there's so many possibilities of what you can do, right? So just a couple resources before we cut loose here that I want to go over real quick. So again, we have the catalog. If you need one of those, let me know. Our website is adornemyhome.com. So this is actually the website right here. You can come on here, you can see all the products. Our website's great. I think the catalog is easier to use if you're specifying than the hotel, or not the hotel, than the website itself. So I like to use the catalog. Pay attention to these photo galleries down here. If you have a customer that you're sitting down with, don't be afraid to click on this photo gallery and just kind of let them check it out. See if they get inspired by any of this. So it's a great visual for that. And then we also have great videos. We have television commercials, lots of different videos that show our product in action. So don't be afraid to click on there and check that out. And yeah, so those are some of our resources. So yeah, so that is, we just kind of went through the Adorne Legrand switch line. Like that's kind of it's a first shot through. We can deeper dive as you go through. Selling this product is a bit of an art form. We at our office are happy to go out and help you lay these systems out and design these systems so that they're going to work right out of the gate. So please reach out to anybody in our office and we'll be happy to help you. And then also on a one-on-one, if you want me to work with you more on switching, happy to do that. If you have your customer and your customer wants to do a consultation via this format, or we come out, like we're happy to do that too. But yeah, we're excited about the product. We love it. Obviously, I love it. Have it in my house. But yeah, so that is the Adorne Legrand product line. I really appreciate your time watching it, and take care. Thank you.